guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is James. For our new subscribers, you're welcome, and for the old ones, you're all welcome. I love you all. So today we are going to be making a wrap top. So I'm not sure of the sleeve yet. I don't know. I would have preferred a puff sleeve that's maybe with a little bit of like elastic on the band or something like that, but I'm not sure of the fabric because I have only 2 yards of fabric to make this top with. So let's get into the things we'll be using. So like, see, I'm using this. Is from my Ankara collection. You can check me out on Instagram, Timmy Kemza James on Facebook, and I'm going to be dropping a number for in the description box below for you if you want to order this. And then we'll also be using a tape, most definitely, and then a marking material. I'm using a tailor's chalk. Then we would need a pair of scissors, a ruler, and our cuffs. So let's get into the tutorial proper. So the length of my blouse is going to be 24 inches, but I'm using 25 here because I'll need a little bit of allowance for hemming the blouse. I'm going to be turning it over with lining, so that's why I'm using 25 inches. So I'm marking my 25 here. I mean, guys, just look at this fabric, it's so beautiful. So I'm marking 25, then I'm going to rule that into a straight line like so. Then I'm going to go over with our regular 3 inches for neckline and 8 inches standard for shoulder line. Then I'm coming down from the shoulder line by 1 inch for my shoulder slant. So I'm going to connect the 3 inch to the 1 inch on the shoulder line that I give to give us our shoulder slant. I mean, that's the regular on the basic body. So I'm just marking my armhole line. I'm using 8.5. Then I'm just going to double check that. Then I'll mark it here so that I can rule that into a straight line. So guys, if you notice, I didn't leave any zip allowance at the back panel. That's because it's a wrap top, so it doesn't need any allowance for zip. It doesn't even need a zip. So I'm marking that 8 inches here. So this is going to be my chest line. Then I'm going to mark my affluence points, which is my waist as a female. So I'm using 17 inches. So I'm just going to connect that into a straight line like so. Then the length, I'm just going to use the complete length of that I have here. So now guys, I'm going to insert my bust measurement. The bust I'm using is 46 inches, so I'm going to divide 46 by 4, dividing 46 by 4. So I'm going like this. Then I'm adding 2 inches sewing allowance. Then I'm going to come over here to mark my waist or affluence is 40 inches divided by 4. I have 10. Then I'm marking 1 inch for that on the affluence point, then 2 inches sewing allowance. Then on the hem, I'm using the hip measurement, which is 46 as well. So I'm going to mark whatever I have here, since it's the same measurement. Instead of multiplying again, I'll just mark whatever I have here on that point there. Then I'm just going to use this curve just to give it a little bit of glam here. That's why I'm using the curve instead of a ruler, but you know it has also, it can double as a ruler. So I'm just going to be using that. Then I'll find half of my shoulder line, half of 8.5. Then I'll mark that point and connect it in a curve like so. Now on the hem side of my fabric, I'm just going to go up by 1.5 inch just to create a slight curve on that side. So I'm using my hip curve to just create that curve. So it's kind of like a subtle curve, so that this point doesn't look sharp or like just pointed like that. So I'm going to mark my neckline now. I don't want the neckline to be too tight, so I'm going to mark 1 inch on my shoulder slant to make my neckline a total of 4 inches. And I want the back neck to be high, so I'm just using 1.5 inch. Then I'm just going to use my 1.5 inch for the back neck depth. Then I'm using my curve, so it measures, the width is 4 inches and the depth is 1.5 at the back. Then I'm just going to mark it there. Now I'm going to use this same panel to make my front bodies, and I want my neck depth for the front to be 6 inches. So I'm marking that 6 inch just to get the point where I would need that. So when we are drafting the front, you will see what I mean. So I'm just going to cut this out. I'm starting from this curve. You can just start anywhere basically. So I'm just going to cut this out. So I'm just adding like 1/4 inch here for joining my shoulder line. So that's what I just did here. That's why I didn't cut on the chalk mark here. So this is my back panel. So if you like, actually you can add a little bit of allowance here to enable you shape in the back, but I'm going to take that in using my dart. That's why I didn't do that. So here we go. This is our front one. I'm just going to fold my fabric again, iron it there for the front piece for you to see. So guys, I just laid my fabric on using another edge of it, so you can see this is our back bodies. So just look carefully at what I'm going to be doing here. I just placed this part on my bodies like this. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to trace out this piece. So I'm just going in gently with my chalk to trace this out. There are so many ways of doing this, but I just want to use this method. So I just trace this out. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going ahead to trace this out. So this top is actually very, very easy to make. So you don't even have to be a professional tailor. As long as you have a sewing machine and you can operate a sewing machine, you'd be able to do that. So I'm just going to shift this forward. So I'll raise my pattern so you can see I have my lines there. So from this line, what I'm going to do is to just turn this over like so. Turn this over like so. Then I'm just going to trace that out again on this other side. Like So I'm not tracing the upper bodies. I'm not tracing out the upper bodies. You can trace it out if you want. It's totally optional. So let me just, although you don't need it, but you can do that. Let me just do it. It doesn't cost anything. So the point where I said I wanted my neck piece to be, you're just going to mark that point there. So this, the front neck piece that I said, you mark it on this point. So you take this out. So you now have your bodies like this. Then I'm grabbing my hip cuff. Now you're going to determine where you want your wrap top to begin, like where you want the cross over to begin. So I just want it to be beneath my bust, so it's going to be on the under bust line. So I'm using that 17 inches point where I said it was my affluence point. That's where I'm going to be using. So from that point, I'm just going to curve like so. If you notice, I'm using this side of the French curve instead of this side. So I'm just going to, from that point, mark up to this neck line that I have here. So I'm marking to the neck point. Then I'm just going to connect it now using this other side to the beginning of my shoulder line. So this is just it. That's just what I'm doing. So I'm going to cut out, so you can see this is my panel now. So I'm just cutting it out like so. Sorry, I just dropped my hip cuff. Cutting my shoulder slant. Just remember, I have a dart allowance in this. So this is the front piece. So what I'm going to do now is cut another, I'm just going to cut another piece. So this is going to come like this. It's supposed to come over like this, if you understand what I mean. So I'm going to cut another panel that will go the other way. So I'm just going to do that off camera. So the wrong side will be facing wrong side, or right side facing right side, so that you have opposite directions of this. So I'll just do that off camera and show you. I'm done cutting. I've gone ahead to cut lining pieces, and then I have two pieces of the front piece and a piece for the back piece. So what I'm going to do now is to join my lining to my fabric. So I'm starting from the back piece, but whatever I'm doing at the back is the same thing I'm going to be doing for the front pieces. So I'm just matching my lining, starting from the hem line. The hem, you know, I added that 1 inch, so I'm trying to just sew my lining piece to my main fabric, matching right sides together. So I'm just going to go ahead and attach my lining like so. So this is the hem part of the back piece. So I just go ahead and attach beginning and the end point, I'm just back stitching. So now I'm coming over to the neckline, so I'm just going to attach my neckline to the bodice, sewing the neckline. So when you're done with the hem, the next thing you should do is the neckline. It's important to follow this order. If not, if you're doing the exact same thing that I'm doing, if you don't take this same order, it will be kind of difficult for you to top stitch or to get the result. It's not like it's not possible, but it will be difficult. Just like if you start from the side piece. So I'm just going to go ahead and top stitch, pushing all my seam allowances towards the lining piece. So I'm just going to sew very close to my seam line, but on the lining piece. That's what I'm going to be doing now. So you should also take the same order. That's the hemline first, then the neckline, then you top stitch the neckline. Ensure that you're not holding any fabric or any bulkiness at the down of your seam, so you're not sewing on top of another fabric that you're not supposed to. So just make sure of that before you start sewing. So I'm just going to pull this out. So I'm done with the neckline. So I'm going to do the side pieces, the side seams, sorry. I ran out of bobbin thread. So guys, here we go. I have my two front panels and my back panel here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be inserting my darts on the three panels. So I'm just going to, because I didn't mark out my darts when I was drafting it, so I'm just going to find the midpoint of my fabric. Then I'm marking my bust span, which is 4.5 inches. So I'm going to just go ahead and mark it from the center point. I'm marking 4.5 inch inwards. Then for me to mark the length of the dart, now I'm taking my dart to be 9 inches from the hem. So I'm taking it upwards like this, 9 inch. Then I'm marking that 4.5 just to know where my dart ends. So I'm just going to hold those 2 points. Then I'm going to sew it using 1/2 inch, because I left 1 inch for my dart, which is 1/2 inch on both sides. So put on my machine, and then I'm just going to go ahead and sew like this. And just there you go. So I'm just going to turn over the other side, the other point of my dart. I'm still going to mark 9 inches. Then I'll sew using half an inch allowance, because I left 1 inch, so 1/2 inch on both sides. Always cut out excess threads, just like I did. So here we go. That for one panel is done. I'm going to do the same thing for the back panel. I'll just mark 4.5 inches like so. My dart on the back side is going to be much longer than the front piece, so you can use any amount you want depending on what you want. So I'm using 15 inches long. You can still use 9 inches if you want, but so here we go. This is our back piece. As you can see, I've gone ahead to take in my darts, and these are my front panels. I've also taken in my darts. You can see on the both panels I've taken in my darts. You can see. So now I'm just going to join the shoulder points. So I'm picking one front and one back, and the back, sorry. Then I'm just going to match it like so, wrong sides on wrong side. So you know, now I have 4 pieces here. These one sewing piece, one material, one lining piece, another lining piece, then another material. So this is how to join the shoulder of a garment. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to grab 3 of those pieces, align this edge together, then I'm taking out and pulling this fabric piece here to flip it over. That's just to sandwich all materials together. So that's just what I'm doing. So I brought it over now. So now I have 2 material, 2 lining up on top of it. So that's, I'm just going to sew using the allowance I left earlier when I was cutting. So I'm just going to sew it. Now for the benefit of those who don't understand, I'm going to repeat the process again using the other piece. So by the time you open it, see what the inside looks like of the shoulder line is concealed. All the raw edges are concealed. On the outside, it's all concealed. So what I did is to trap everything inside. So I'm going to repeat that process just for you to see, for the benefit of those who didn't understand what I meant. So I'm just going to match my front and my back like so. You can see I just match the front and back piece together. Then I have 4 pieces here, which is 1 main fabric, 2 lining pieces in between, then the main fabric again. So what you're going to do is grab 3 of those, that is 2 fabric piece and the main lining, then flip one of it over. You can either decide to flip the back piece or the front piece, any one you prefer. So I just flipped it over like this. Flip it over, then make sure it's properly aligned, or everything is aligned. Then you turn it over and bring it to your machine, holding firm to what you did earlier. So you're just going to sew using your seam allowance. I don't know how much seam allowance you would prefer. I'm just going to turn it over again for you to see. You can see this side is concealed, the right side is concealed, the wrong side is also concealed. So now we are going to join our bodies together. So as you can see, our blouse is coming out quite nicely. So I'm going to just flip it over to the wrong side like this, so I can join the side pieces. You remember we left 2 inches sewing allowance. but we use half of those 2 inches to join the lining to the blouse. So I'm going to use 1.5 inch allowance to join my side seams together. So I'm just going to mark that and sew until I get to the hem. Make sure everything is aligned. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, like this. Make sure you align everything together, no rooms for mistakes, please. So here we go. This is our blouse. So it's almost ready. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut out a string of fabric which I'm going to be using for the rope that crosses over. But then before I do that, I'm going to create a hole for the rope to pass. So this is where the rope is going to be. I'll just match this like this. Then I'm going to mark the point the rope is going to be like this. Then I'll open this seam allowance up. I'll just mark those points. Then I'm going to create like a buttonhole on the seam allowance. That's the point the hole is. That's the point the rope or the loop or whatever the rope is going to, that will wrap the dress, the blouse will just fall into. Make sure you back stitch as you're sewing. Make sure you back stitch. As much as you can. So this is just like creating a buttonhole. We're going to do this on one side, depending on how you want your blouse to wrap, on which side do you want the wrap to face. So that's what will determine that. So I'm going to keep the blouse aside, and then I have this piece, this piece that I cut out is just 5.5 inches. So you're going to do that, and you fold it right side facing right side and just sew straight on the rope. The width actually depends on you. You can just do it as big or as small as you wish. It's totally up to you, and it can also be as long as you wish. If you want it to like maybe create a bow at the back of the dress, you make it really long. If you don't mind, you don't want the bow, you just want to be able to tie it at the back of the blouse, that's up to you. You just look for a length that can wrap you, that can go round your body. So that's what you'd be looking at. So I'm just going to go ahead and sew this, turn it over, give it a nice press. Then I'll come back to show you how to attach it. So Here we go. Here is our belt piece. Here you go. So I have a shorter one and a longer one. I just prefer it this way. There's no reason why I did that. So I'm just going to grab one side of the front piece. This is the neckline. So at the edge here, I'm just going to match this and come over to my sewing machine here. Then before then, there's something I discovered when you wrap the dress. You usually have some kind of like opening. So I'm just going to create a little pleat here at the neck piece, just close to the hem here. I'm just going to make two tiny pleats which are going to serve as like that, just to close up that point there. So I'm just going to do that like this. So they are just also going to just add a little bit of beauty to the dress or the blouse. So here we go. So I'm going to add my rope now, or my belts. They are actually belts, not rope. So I'm just going to sew this nicely on it. I'm matching right sides of so I'm just matching right side of the belt together with the fabric, right side of the fabric. So I'm just going to sew like this, double stitch to hold it very firm. Cut out any excess thread on your fabric. Don't forget to do that. So you see, then I'm just going to do the same thing to the other side. I'm just going to add that double pleat that I did there. It really does make a difference in this wrap top. If you don't want too much exposure, but if you don't mind, then that's fine. But if you don't mind your boobs being outside on the dress, then this one just adds a little bit of closure more to your body. So I'm going to put the other rope right side, facing right side. This is the seam line, so I regard that point, that place that has the seam line, as the wrong side. So in case you're wondering what I'm saying, right side, so right side, so it's just where the seam line is. That's where I'm just regarding as the wrong side of the belt, not like it necessarily has a wrong side or anything. So just sewing. So here we go. So that point where we have like a buttonhole, I'm just going to open the seam in between. So I'm just using my seam ripper. If you don't have this, you can use a blade or something. So I'm just opening that point like this. So let me just try this on. So here we go. Just tie this up, and then I'm just going to fix the sleeve and everything. I have a sleeve tutorial on my, so this is what it looks like, and here's the back side. So I'm just going to add a sleeve to this. I'm not sure what sleeve to add yet. That's why I'm not even adding the sleeve yet. So when I make up my mind, I'm going to add my sleeve. So this is it, guys, about our wrap top. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, share this video with your friends, and don't forget, I love you. See you in my next video. Bye.